but if you look at the one I already have, it's slightly different. Highlighting over them, you'll see a little white arrow pointing to a node. Hey guys, Diddy back with the ultimate shipbuilding guide. Starfield is a massive open universe RPG with freedom of choice at the front and center. You can go the whole game without building a single ship, only choosing to use what you buy or earn during gameplay. That path is a completely legitimate one, and you could even focus entirely on ships within the tech tree and still never touch a module. Where's the fun in that though? You seem like the type that wants to unleash their creative juices, building a Normandy SR4 or a Serenity 2 or a Planet Express ship Mark II, or even some kind of crazy amalgamation of pure chaos. There's a lot to shipbuilding, and my hope is that after this guide, you'll have all the tools needed to get started or continue your journey into customizing your vessels. I'll go through the skills you need, crew, manufacturers, upgrading ship parts, and interiors. Now, stay tuned to the channel for videos covering the latest mods, which I'm sure will change up what you can do in this space. Pun not intended. This will just be covering the vanilla game. Also be sure to check out my ultimate starting guide or top 20 actually useful tips video if you haven't, and make good use of the timestamps below. Alright, let's get started. If you want to focus your character on shipbuilding, the best background to choose is Bounty Hunter. They start with 3 tech-related skills, and that gets you closer to starship design, which is core to get access to the most amount of modules. If you choose another, that's fine, just make sure to max out piloting so you have access to Class B and then Class C ships. I'll explain this more soon. Then you want to max out starship design. These are the only 2 skills you need in order to get access to everything, though you may want to pick up other skills that help you put in more crew, for example, or make your weapons and shields stronger. So let's talk about your crew. Like mentioned, skills impact how many companions you can crew your ship with, specifically ship command, which takes you from being able to assign 4 crew to your ship to up to 8. Each companion brings with them a set of skills and proficiency in those skills. To be completely honest with you, it will take a hell of a lot of testing to see just how effective these skills are when these companions are placed in ships, as Bethesda seems to not like giving us numbers. But as of right now, as an example, assume that Andrea's skill, Energy Weapon Systems, makes your ship energy weapons better if she's assigned to your ship. So click on them, hit assign, and then your ship. You'll notice her skill that works on a ship specifically will be highlighted. In this case, only Energy Weapon Systems. As long as you have 4 spaces for crew in your ship, you'll be fine assigning them. Now, as you venture further into the universe of Starfield, you'll run into ship technicians and salesmen that will let you modify your ships. They'll usually give you access to different ship manufacturer modules. If you talk to the ship technician at New Atlantis, you'll have Deimos and Nova Galactic parts to choose from. However, if you enter the Deimos Star Yard, you'll only have Deimos parts to choose from, but will have higher end module options. There's no single shipyard that gives you access to every module, so you need to explore around to see what you like. There are a ton of places that sell and modify ships, so much that I won't be able to list them all here. However, keep an eye out for dealers that only sell specific manufacturer parts. Like mentioned, they'll have some parts that you can't find elsewhere, like larger bridge cockpits or larger hab modules. Also keep an eye out for ship techs in lawless areas like on the Key or in Neon, as they'll sell things like shielded cargo bays and scan jammers, which will help you sneak contraband into settled systems. Finally, if you've invested some time into outpost building, you can build this, a landing pad with a ship builder. It's pretty expensive, taking a ton of iron and aluminium to build the frames, but if you jump onto the ship builder console, you'll have access to the most amount of parts out of any location in the game. The only ones you'll be missing are the extremely high-end manufacturer-only modules, so this will be the best place to modify your creations. Now, in order to build your ship, you need to select the I'd like to view and modify my ships option. Here you get a look at the ships you currently have in your possession. Let's stick with Planet Espresso. Here we see these ships' subsystems. The first 3 are weapons, then we have engines, shields, and Grav Drive. Below is the total power you have to allocate to those systems. The amount of power they need to be fully powered depends on the modules you place. Next is the ship overview. We have fuel, which dictates how far you can travel in a single click. Hull is essentially your ship's HP. When this is gone, it will be destroyed. Cargo is the available cargo space in your ship. Any items or resources collected while piloting your ship will be deposited here as well. Shielded capacity is special storage in your ship that can be hidden from contraband scans, which is great for smugglers. Then we have the Reactor Class C with how much power it provides, 29, which we can see here. How many crew can be assigned to the ship to bolster its effectiveness with their skills, how far the ship can jump in a single jump, which ties in with fuel, but it's a way of the game punishing you for having a high mass ship, as the higher the mass, the lower the jump range, offset by a powerful Grav Drive. You need to have at least a jump range of 28 to get to some of the furthest out systems, so range also limits you. Then we have shields which protect your ship before the attacks hit your hull, and finally, the weapon stats. Ships are only unregistered if you didn't buy the ship or didn't own them previously, so if you stole or found them. This basically means before you modify, you'll need to pay a small sum of cash. Then we have the ship's value and its total mass. Top right is the credits the vendor has to play with and how much you have. Below that will be how much the parts are costing you when the time comes. So if you wanted to simply upgrade parts, like your weapons for example, without changing much of the ship, hit the button here and you can swap parts that fit within the space that the modules already placed take up. Like these turrets can be swapped out for similar weapons, but that's not why we're here. We're here to build a ship, so hit the ship builder button and jump in. So the stats you saw before are now below to give better view of your workspace. You'll also see a mobility and a top speed stat. You'll notice that everything will add mass to your creation. The higher the mass, the lower the mobility and max jump range of your ship. You improve both those stats with better parts. Mass doesn't decrease max speed, nor does mass improve your hull or HP. You need to add a lot of mass before it makes a sizable difference though, so don't be afraid to add purely cosmetic parts. In order to build your ship, you simply need to snap modules onto each other. They connect like Legos, and as long as you don't see an error in the flight check section, you're doing the right thing. It's fairly straightforward, but note you drag parts around on the X and Y axis, and in order to move them up and down on the Z axis, you need to press the keys here. It takes a bit getting used to. Also, if you want to see just what parts will fit, highlight over a particular node and press the button here. It will only show you the parts that fit in that particular section. So let's go through your options. First, hit the button here. G for PC users, that will bring up the parts you have available to play with at this particular vendor. You'll have much more options with a high piloting skill and starship design skill. The first part is your landing bays. You can't complete a ship without one of these. This dealer has only one available, but if you look at the one I already have, it's slightly different. Highlighting over them, you'll see a little white arrow pointing to a node. A node being the blue and white squares and circles that represent a snap point of a part. So my landing bay has to have a hab connected at its back, and the one we can buy has to be placed below a hab. I'll talk more about habs later, but they're the only areas alongside cockpits that you and your crew can walk around in. So different landing bays will have different points they can connect onto, which is important for the shape and design of your ship. In this case, if I pull out one of the habs and show you how it connects, you'll see when you enter the ship from here, you'll end up here. It's different for both. You'll notice that it provides a small amount of hull and a small amount of mass. Very different to our next module, our cargo. In order to store things in our ship, we need cargo space. Your cockpit provides a small amount, but if you really want to smuggle goods or mine asteroids like the best of them, you're going to need a cargo hold. This one here stores 210, provides 5 hull, but has a whopping 44 mass. Scrolling down, you can see some are extremely heavy. Most of your mass will come from these cargo holds, so really, if you want a small nimble ship, just avoid putting cargo holds in. If you want a behemoth though, put a few of these in. Planet Espresso has a few itself. 4 Galleon cargo holds that have a capacity of 1,200 each, but also a mass of 252 each. I also have 2 shielded cargo bays as well, which hides contraband from authorities. These have 190 each and a mass of 56, so over a third of the ship's weight just comes from these storage modules. Next, we have cockpits. This is where you'll sit to pilot your ship. Obviously, you want a nice looking one, but they also provide other benefits. They provide cargo space, so you don't need specific cargo bays if you want a smaller ship. They provide a small amount of hull, and they also provide stations for your crew to man the ship. The bigger cockpits like this bridge provide a lot of stations and a lot more cargo storage, but also cost a lot of credits and have a higher mass, and some even require starship design. So if you want a tight fighter, don't think expensive is better. Demio's cockpits are straightforward, but keep an eye on their node points. You don't always have to place cockpits in traditional spots, and it goes without saying you can't finish a ship without building one. Another required module is the docker. You'll need one on your ship somewhere before finalizing. This is where your ship will connect to other ships and space stations. An arm extends out and connects to this point. It's either placed on top of your ship or in some cases, the front or port side. This will impact your cosmetic freedom, as you have to make sure the docker is placed on the outside edge of your ship, not hidden away, or you won't be able to finish your design. Keep that in mind when building. Your engines are up next, and this is the first module that will require power. You can build as many of these as you like, as long as you don't go over 12 total power, denoted on the bar here. Each individual engine has a maximum power, this supernova 2000 requiring 3, so you could have 4 of these engines on your ship. Then though, you would need to allocate 12 of your reactor's power to your engines in order to get the maximum amount of speed out of them. Each of these particular engines has 17,670 thrust, which impacts its max speed. But note, if you only put in half the power, you'll get half the output. So keep in mind the amount of power a module has impacts its value as well. You don't want too many power-hungry parts on your ship. Also, this is a Class C engine. I mentioned before that you need 4 ranks in piloting to even use this part, and in order to equip it, you need a Class C reactor as well, but more on that later. Maneuvering thrust impacts your mobility, as in how fast your ship turns in space. Engine health is the HP of this particular part. Enemies can shoot at your ship, and if your engines take damage, their HP is separate from your hull. When the HP is down, you'll be left in the water dead with no thrust. So a higher HP stat will mean tougher parts more resilient to being disabled. And it provides you 5 hull and 0.25 crew, as in 1 crew can handle 4 of these. Engines can also be heavy, this one being a mass of 334 and requiring Starship Design 1. Note that Class A parts are typically lighter. So the second most mass of my ship comes from my 4 330 mass each Slayton Aerospace engines. The rest of the weight comes from my fuel tanks. Fuel isn't needed to fly around, it's needed to grav jump, like I mentioned before. I like having a decent fuel capacity just so I don't need to stop and start when grav jumping places. However, it adds a lot of weight and it isn't needed. I have 500 fuel with these 2 M40 Ulysses tanks, but they're 25 mass apiece. Smaller, faster ships won't need these. They come in all shapes and sizes so you can fit them anywhere, and fuel doesn't affect your grav jump range. So if you're going a small nimble fighter, just get the lightest fuel tank you can. Next is your landing gear. You need enough landing gear to support the mass of your ship. In my case, I need 15 of these pinpoint 3G gears. You'll also see the green highlighted plane that lights up with the landing bay. Landing gear and landing bays need to be on the same level or you won't be able to complete your ship. This is the most annoying part of ship building and stifles the most amount of creativity. Demios doesn't have many options for gear, but you'll see here that this one provides 1 thrust and 2 hull. Whereas this one provides 3 thrust, so obviously you'll need less of the 320 cb than you would with the 220 cb for heavier ships. You'll know if you have enough because there won't be an error in the flight check section, which I'll go through later. Next is your Grav Drive. You can only have 1 of these on your ship, but you need 1 before you can complete it. They come in different classes of increasing power and mass. Max power is how much power you can allocate to it in order to reduce the time it takes to grav jump away. In most cases, I just put 1 power in when I want to grav jump, as it takes around 6 seconds. Fully powered, it's almost instantaneous. Great for getting away from fights you can't win. So why do you need more expensive grav drives with higher thrust if they take roughly the same amount of time to jump, and distance is also dictated by your mass? First, because you need to jump system to system, and some systems are further away from each other. You need at least 28 light years jump distance to reach the further away systems, which doesn't really come up until endgame, so don't worry about it too much. Also, because you need to have over a particular amount of thrust to mass ratio before you can jump at all. So this Helio 100 grav drive has 9 thrust, which isn't enough to let my over 3000 mass ship jump. Simply get the cheapest grav drive you need for your current mass, or if you're wealthy, get the best and enjoy a larger HP and therefore harder to disable system, unless you have a goal to get to a particular faraway system. Class A ships will be better at grav jumping long distances, and you'll struggle to get your bigger Class C vessels that far. Next up is Habs. Habs are habitation modules for your ship. Sadly, Bethesda didn't do well explaining what these are and how they look. I would give anything for the ability to test fly your ship before committing to buying parts. Habs are the only spaces your crew and yourself can walk around in besides the cockpit. They come in different sizes and usually contain cosmetic looks inside, with the odd habitation module providing space for passengers or space for crew to man the ship, a place to display weapons and gear, or some even containing modern research stations. You can press left and right on different sizes to select the different types of Habs. Deimos doesn't have many options, but stick around and I'll give you a tour of most of the different kinds here so you have an idea of what to pick and where to place them. Now these modules snap together and the spaces between them become linked by doors and ladders. They provide hull and a small amount of mass. Usually pick the ones with a lot of node options so you can cover them in decorations or snap them to other parts and modules. Next is the lifeblood of your ship, the Reactor. This powers all your ship's systems, and if you want a ship with a Class B or Class C parts, you'll need to install a higher class reactor. You'll see that this one here is a Fuser DC-402, needs both Piloting 4 and Starship Design 2. This one generates 34 power, meaning you'll have 34 pips to allocate to your subsystems. Usually you won't have enough power to fully power everything, so you need to move power around. It goes without saying that the more power you generate, the better. Your reactor does more than power your ship, it provides a repair rate, how fast your ship will heal its modules. It also provides the most amount of hull out of any part. So a strong reactor will make your ship extremely tanky. We're seeing parts that give the odd hull here and there with 2 or 5 and these kinds of numbers. This reactor though gives 1020 hull, which is actually more than my entire ship right now. So tanky ships need good reactors. Surprisingly, it doesn't add that much mass. Yes, 102 is a lot, but not when compared to fuel, engines, and storage. Focus on getting yourself a good reactor first. Next is your shield. They come in classes too, higher classes introducing more mass, but also more strength. A shield has a max power, which means the higher the number is, the worse it is for you. You'll only get the shield's max health at 100% power allocation. So this shield, the Assurance SG 1800, will only give you 800 shield if you put 6 power into it. It's a good idea to look at max power, shield max health, and its regen rate before making your choice. Mass differences are seemingly inconsequential. Do note that Class A shields have the fastest shield regeneration, making them better for nimble ships and hit-and-run tactics. Next are the structural modules. These provide no statistical advantage and serve only to make your ship more visually appealing or add points for weapons and modules to snap onto. There are also windows you can place on your Habs and specific weapon mounts that let you stack 2 weapons on one node. Different stores will have different manufacturers' structural modules. Keep in mind that they do add to your ship's mass, but such a small amount that you really shouldn't hold off making your ship look nice. We're talking not even one mobility is impacted. Finally, we have weapons, what I'm sure a lot of you will want to arm your ship to the teeth with. It might not be the wisest thing to do though. Here's why. You can have up to 3 weapon systems on your ship. I've only got turrets and missiles on mine for the moment, but you'll see that they each have a max power requirement. Once 12 is reached, I can't place more. However, like mentioned, I have a limited amount of power granted by the reactor, so if I place too many weapons, I won't be able to power them all. Less power means slower recharge rate for weapons, which absolutely sucks. So only put a handful of weapons on your ship unless you can power all of them. So let's have a closer look. Weapons have classes, so are restricted by your reactor class. They have a range which they can reach their target, a fire rate which doesn't display the DPS of your weapon, so keep the fire rate and the damage in mind. They have a damage they do to the hull stat, a damage they do to shields, the power they require, and crew capacity. There are different weapon types that aren't listed here. What you'll need to do is make an educated guess or base it off the name. Laser systems are highly effective against shields, but not against hulls. The reverse is true for ballistic weapons. Particle weapons are middling against both, and missiles are extremely damaging, but take a while to recharge, have a slow fire rate, and require a target lock in order to fully home in. Finally, we have EM. You'll notice electromagnetic damage is written below the shield damage on some weapons. Electromagnetic weapons disable their targets, leaving them dead in the water and open to destroy or board. It's quite potent. Finally, we have turrets which automatically lock onto and shoot targets. You notice that I have 3 of those on my ship, as well as a strong missile system. This is not a particularly small and nimble ship, so turrets work well. Though if you have anything that's slightly smaller, manual targeting weapons are just fine. So those are all the modules you get to play with in Starfield Ship Builder. Well, all the module categories at least. There are plenty of other parts I didn't get to show. Once you're done building, press the flight check button down here. It will show you if there are any errors you need to resolve. It will also let you assign weapons to a section or button. It will also allow you to name your ship. Once you exit, the amount of credits total you spent will be deducted and your ship will be good to fly. just make sure it's set as your home ship if you have multiple. So you've seen the outside of the ship, but what about what it looks like inside? Well, for that I need to jump back into Habs. Here I've made an extremely ugly ship, but one that will serve a purpose. You enter through the landing bay here, and on the bottom floor we have a 1x1 companionway and a 1x1 storeroom. Then we have a line of 2x1 rooms, each provide hull, but some provide passenger slots, and in the case of the control station, spots for crew to man the ship. So when you get the skill to man your ships with more crew, you might want a crew station. Until then, get a science lab, infirmary, or workshop for the crafting benches, but I'll jump into the ship now so you can see just how these Deimos modules look inside and what they provide. Now here we are at the bottom of the ship. This is the companionway here, and this is the storeroom. So purely cosmetic. It's connected by a ladder. You can climb up it, but I choose just to jump. If we go to the front of the ship, we'll notice that we have the cockpit here. I'll return here later. And let's continue down the middle part of the ship. First up will be the all-in-one berth. You see here, it has places to sleep. It's got just a little area to relax, but it really doesn't provide much but cosmetics. Then we have the armory. It provides places for you to store your weapons. It's cosmetic, but it also reduces your capacity, so you can display things here and display things up on the wall in the cases here. So the armory is a nice place to display all your weapons and your armor. And then we have the captain's quarters. You want to hide this away, maybe at the top of your ship somewhere with a good view. Maybe put some ports so you can see out into space. I didn't include that with this ship, but that's something you can do. The captain's quarters has a navigation console that you can click on to see where you're going, but you can just press M to do that, so it is purely cosmetic as well. It has a bed, and if you're in a relationship with someone, they'll wake up with you in that. And then it has a locker as well. Moving on, this is the computer core, and this is mostly cosmetic as well. It gives it a sci-fi futuristic look.
Ah, there you are.
So let's get back to the ladder and jump up to the next floor. In this story, we start off in the workshop. It has an industrial workbench, a weapons workbench, and a spacesuit workbench. So this is one of the best 2x1 Habs if you really need to put something in, because it gives you all those crafting areas. The next Hab is the living quarters, and as you would expect, it's just a place for people to chill out, purely cosmetic. The next room is the infirmary, and it comes with both a research lab and a pharmaceutical lab. So having both the workshop and the infirmary together is a good way to go if you want to keep your ship nice and small. Then the last room we have is the control station. Not much to be said here, just provides places to sit. Let's get to the ladder and go up to the next level. This is the engineering bay, and it is a 2x2, so it is quite a bit bigger than the 2x1s. Once again, it doesn't provide much but cosmetics. This is the computer core. Similar to the 2x1 computer core, except slightly bigger. This is the battle stations. If you want a 2x2, this is one of the better ones to get because it provides a lot of areas for your crew to man your ship. Now this is the 2x1 science lab. It has a research station and it has a pharmaceutical lab similar to the infirmary. Let's move on back and go up to the next level, which I believe was over here. So the next level, we have a 3x3 cargo hall. As you can see, it's quite big. Purely cosmetic as well. Then we have the 2x2 living quarters. And we have the brig. It's the only one that has a computer that you can jump into. You can open this door and you can lock people in here, but I haven't found a use for it yet. Moving on. We have a 2x2 cargo hall, and this one has a place to store some stuff. And that's everything for now. Let me know your thoughts below. If you have any tips, funny or interesting Starfield related content, be sure to join my Discord and submit them. You may just be featured in a video, and every month, the best features will win a game of their choice. I give away a lot of things, and those in the community might even win bigger prizes like the Constellation edition of the game and more. So get in and join the conversations. Thank you so much, and stay tuned to Dantix for everything Starfield. Ciao, friends.